Hi, good evening. So today I want to talk about community ecology, as in organisms having different type of relationship with each other. So last time we talked about population. Population is just the type of the total number of individuals that live in a particular area, and community. What we're going to talk about today is just basically the a group of populations that live at a certain place or locality. So one example is the savannah community in Africa. So in that community we have population of zebras, lions, and all the plants and different types of grasses. So basically, community is a different type of group of populations living at a certain place or area. So the other vocab I want to touch is talk about is the niche. So a niche an organism occupies is just the total ways an organism uses to utilize its resources from the environment. Uh, what I want to talk more about today is the different types of relationships organisms make with each other, and it's studied under the it can be studied under the topic of symbiotic relationships, symbiotic interactions. So what symbiosis means is the relationship organisms have with actually it's two or more organisms that have a relationship that is elaborate and permanent, uh, usually. So there are the four major types of symbiotic relationships. I want to talk about them, and in fact, I want to add the fifth one that is not covered well on our textbook. So to list them, it's mutualism, parasitism, commensalism, predation, and the fifth one I'm going to add is the amensalism. So let's start off with mutualism. So mutualism is the type of relationship where both the organisms benefit with the relationship from the relationship. So a simple example is the relationship the crocodile has with a bird. So there's this type of bird that comes and takes the leftover food that is stuck in the teeth of the crocodile. So once the crocodile finishes eating, he's basically gonna open up his mouth, and the birds are gonna sit there, and they're gonna pick on the meat that is stuck in between the teeth. So here the crocodile is gonna be benefited because he's gonna have the crocodile is not gonna have the food that is stuck in between the teeth, causing him discomfort and maybe infection too. So the bird is gonna benefit that it's gonna get his food. So it's gonna be a mutual relationship, both benefit plus plus, as I said, as I started put down there. So the next one, I want to talk about is sometimes mutual relationship may not be perfect between some organisms. So this example was very fascinating. I saw it on our textbook. This special species of ants is a little bit powerful and predominant. They Once they settle on a tree, this tree is acacia tree. So the ratio I'm going to talk about is acacia tree in this species of ant. So once this species of ant settles on the acacia tree, it's gonna prune the branches and the leaves of the acacia tree whenever an ant or another insect tries to cross over to the branches of the acacia tree. So to avoid that, it's gonna prune the edges, the branches of the acacia tree. So that's not gonna benefit the acacia tree. In fact, it's gonna harm it. So even though the ant is gonna benefit from it, it's not gonna be mutual because the acacia tree doesn't benefit from the relationship anymore. So the next one I want to talk about is parasitism. So in parasitism, as we all know, is when a parasite or one organism is going to be benefited from harming or infecting the other organism. Usually we call them hosts. So One example I can give is we all know when worms are like parasites to in our body. So when a parasite is like when a parasite lays its egg inside the body, it's going to be called endoparasite. So let's look at an example. So when the humans eat raw meat, there's a high chance of having the tapeworm get into our body, and once the tapeworm gets into our body, it's going to attach itself to our body. I'm assuming our stomach or intestine, then it's gonna feed off of all the food that is inside there. So that's gonna harm us, but it's gonna be beneficial, very beneficial for the worm, for the tapeworm. And we know we're infected by tapeworm when we see the white flat segments of the tapeworm along with our feces. So that's a pretty nasty disease to have, but it's one type of relationship we see in this world. So the other relationship, symbiotic relationship I want to talk about is commensalism. Commensalism is the type of relationship where by which one organism benefits, but the other is going to be neutral. So one is going to benefit, but the other one is neither going to be harmed nor benefited. So it's going to be neutral. So let's take a look at example. When an oxpecker lands or sits on antelopes, they pick on the ticks, so that's their food, or any other animals or little tiny organisms that hide in the skin of the antelope or any other cattle. So that's going to be benefiting for the oxpecker, but it's not going to harm, and it's not going to benefit the antelope. So that's going to be a commensalism. As I said before, for the mutualism relationship, sometimes commensalism may go wrong when, for example, the oxpecker picks on the scab or wound of the antelope or any other cattle. That's going to cause bleeding for the antelope or the cattle. So that's not going to be a mutual. It's not going to be neutral state for the antelope or cattle anymore, because they're going to be infected from the bleeding, and loss of blood is not okay either. So the other one is haven't talked about is predation. So that's going to be the type of relationship where there's a predator and a prey. So obviously the predator is going to consume the prey, and that's the type of relationship what predation means. So one example we can take is the wolves we have in Minnesota. Wolves hunt on deers. Also coyotes hunt on deers and rabbits. So the type of relationship is based on a predator hunting on a prey for its resource most of the time. The last one I want to add is the amensalism. So amensalism is the type of relationship by which an organism deprives an organism from its resources, maybe shelter or food. So amensalism can be divided into two. The first one is when competition. So competition is the type of relationship when the powerful one, most of the time, the powerful organism excludes the other from its resource. So we can take a cool example that was stated on our textbook. It was an experiment made by Georgy Gauss. He was a Russian scientist. So he looked at the different species of paramecium. So he specifically looked at the Aurelia and the Codatum species. So those two, when they were grown, when they were allowed to grow separately, they grew well, and the survival was normal. the survival rate. However, when they were allowed to grow together, the species named Codatum significantly decreased from slim to none the existence of that species. And when he studied that, there was a competition over resource. So he formulated this principle called competition exclusion. So what it means is if two species compete over a resource, the organism that utilizes the resources effectively is going to eliminate the other organism locally. So that's basically what competition is. The other type of amensalism is antibiosis. So in antibiosis is when an organism emits secretion and it kills or infects the other organism. So one ordinary example we see is when there's a mold on the bread. So usually when that happens, there's going to be a bacteria and penicillium bread mold existing on the bread at the same time. So that's going to cause the penicillium bread mold to secrete the penicillin, and penicillin is toxic for the bacteria, so it kills the bacteria. So in that case, we have the bacteria dead, which is harmful for the bacteria, but that's just neutral for the penicillium bread mold. It just kills it anyways. So that's the type of relationship, even though it's not cool, that's just how it is. So that's what antibiosis means, type of relationship when an organism infects or kills the other one using secretion. So to go over the type of relationships again, so mutualism, both benefit, plus plus for both. Parasitism is minus positive, which is harmful but beneficial for the other one. Commensalism is beneficial for one of them and neutral for the other one, so plus 0 I said. And predation is going to be positive or beneficial for the one of them, and for the prey is going to be harmful. Amensalism, the last but not the least, is going to be neutral for one of them and harmful for the other one. Thanks for watching. I hope I described them well. Thanks.